Hello everyone, Milo here. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about how to get into 3D printing. Now, why am I talking about how to get into 3D printing? To some of you who have 3D printers at home and who are already part of the hobby, it might seem pretty obvious what to watch out for and what to not. But for someone who's just heard of this and who hasn't really, looked into it all that much, it could be a little daunting because there's a lot to unpack. There's different types of manufacturing, there's different types of 3D printers, there's a bunch of stuff that they have to kind of navigate. So I'm hoping that this video will help them. Now, I get this question a lot, believe it or not. Whenever I present a project or I print something at home to show it off in class, I get the question of, hey, what's a good printer I should buy? Or, hey, how can I get into the hobby? And after getting a couple of my friends into it, I kind of know what some of them are looking for and what some of them are not. Not everyone wants to be the technician, or not everyone wants to be fixing their printer, and that's something that became apparent to me. Not to mention that there's some people who don't want the best of the best. There's some people who just want an end to see if they even like it. And to those of you who are already part of the 3D printing space, who already own printers and who kind of know what to do in the space, let me know what your first printer is, what you're currently running, and what you would recommend to people getting into the hobby. I am not a professional, not the end all be all, and I feel like the more information we have and the more opinions we can get, the better. Now, a quick version of what is 3D printing. So for those of you that do not know, 3D printing is an additive manufacturing technique. There are two main types of 3D printing in the commercial space right now. One is FDM, fused deposition modeling, and the other one is SLA, which is stereolithography. You don't need to memorize the names. What you need to know is that one of them melts plastic and, it's like a hot glue gun, essentially. It's the stuff you've been seeing on my channel and what I've built. The other is the resin 3D printers. Now, those are really cool. I don't actually have a lot of experience in that field, but if you want something very detailed and you don't want to see a lot of the layer lines, that's the technology you want to go with. Before I even recommend you anything any further, if you're the type of person who's only ever seen or heard about 3D printing across a screen and you haven't held a 3D printed part in your hand, then today's video sponsor might be able to help. PCBWay. PCBWay is your one-stop shop to turning your projects into reality. They offer a multitude of services including 3D printing, CNC machining, and PCB fabrication. They offer both populated and unpopulated boards, as well as a multitude of 3D printing materials, some of which include ABS, PLA, and TPU. They also have a shared projects category, where open source projects by the community are easily accessible for all. Thank you PCBWay for being the channel sponsor. Probably one of the most important questions you need to ask yourself early on is, what will you be using this 3D printer for? Why would you even want one? So this ties into our previous topic of what type of printer to choose, because if you're going to be printing toys, for example, or if you're going to be printing tools, then really an FDM printer is a pretty good choice. If you're going to be doing anything that's super high resolution, then SLA is the way to go, like I've said before. This will also really narrow down your usage case, because let's say you're printing things that are larger, like let's say organizational boxes and that kind of stuff. Let's say you're talking about Gridfinity. Well, if you're just printing Gridfinity items out, then you really don't need a huge build platform. But let's say if you're doing the new multi-board stuff, then you really would want a bigger printer so that you can get as much of those panels printed and as largely as possible in one go. If you're looking to print things out that are bigger and that's really what your interest is, and there are several options down the road, and you need to be looking at printers that have a larger bed size. Keep in mind that larger printers come at an increased cost, and they also have more issues. Like when you have a failure as a large printer, it's a bigger waste of material. If you have a failure on like a 100mm printer, cubic millimeter printer, like a Prusa Mini, you've wasted a couple cents worth of plastic. If you have a failure on one of the new Elegoo Orange Gigas or whatever it's called, then we're talking about days of printing that went down the drain and probably kilograms of plastic as well. So the larger the printer, the more expensive it becomes to run and to maintain. And also the mistakes become pricier. Now, if you're gonna be printing out tools and you're gonna be prototyping and that kind of stuff, FDM really shines here. There's a wide range of materials to choose from. It's all fairly simple and they come in standardized spools of plastic like this one. And really, you have a lot more choices to choose from and a lot more versatility. They're also pretty quick on prototyping. SLA takes a lot of let's say post work to clean up the parts, to get them fully cured and that kind of stuff. And that's cool. Again, if you're doing minis or if you're doing models, that's fine. Generally speaking, you're gonna be doing a lot of post processing to begin with when you're painting them. But for FDM parts, a lot of the time, the way they come out of the build plate is how it gets used. I made my entire Pine-Sol case on my Voron Trident over here, and it came out amazing, at least in my opinion. And I didn't have to do any type of post-processing on it other than actually assembling the thing. But yeah, consider that when making your decisions. Not to mention that for prototyping, some of these FDM machines are getting really fast. Some that come to mind are either the VZ bots, the Annex Engineering K1s or K3s, I'm not entirely sure. The Rat Rigs with the new VCore 4 are super fast. And we have to mention it, Bambu Lab. I don't actually own a Bambu Lab, unfortunately. Looking at you, Bambu. But yeah, I don't actually own a Bambu Lab at the moment. I wish I did. I do know that they're really fast. My friend has one and that thing is super quick. Highly recommend you look at those. In fact, later on in the video, that'll be one of the recommendations to look into. Since I don't actually have one, I can't make the recommendation blindly, but they're definitely something you should highly consider, since they've completely shaken the entire market since they came out. If you're not sure which 3D printer to buy, you should definitely start looking at what type of items you want to print with it. In fact, I think that you should look at stuff that you want to print before you even look at a printer you're going to be printing with. Remember, this is not about the tool, this is about what you can do with it. Right, finally, we're finally talking about choices. So if you're absolutely new, brand new to this, you don't even know if you're gonna like 3D printing, you just think it's kind of cool, right? I don't actually recommend you get a new printer at all. This is what I recommend. Go into any used marketplace, whether it be eBay, Facebook Marketplace, or I don't know, OfferUp, things like that. Find yourself pretty much anything under the $200 mark, so long as it's working, and just test it out and see if you like it. If you do like it, you have two choices. You could either upgrade the 3D printer you just finished buying, which, I mean, there's some merit to that, or you could sell it and buy yourself a nicer printer. The reason why I recommend you do it like this is because 3D printers do depreciate quite a bit. But once they finish depreciating like that large amount, you can kind of all see them hovering for the same price. They have to be pretty old to depreciate like drastically, or unless someone's just like absolutely fed up with it and they don't want it anymore and that kind of stuff. So you might be able to get lucky in that regard. But if you just want to see if you could get into it, try and spend as little as possible. Most of the used listings come with some filament, so you won't even have to buy some filament. You can just kind of like get all the hand-me-downs, and it'll come with maybe even some tools. But do be careful, because you do want the printer to be in operational shape. If you're someone who you're sure you want something new, then I would say you're looking at the $200 to $350 market. I would be looking at the Prusa A1 Minis, at the Crealities. I prefer the CR10s. I started with a CR10. I still have my CR10. It's not operational right now, but that's because I've been doing stuff to it.
What do you mean by that?
And you have the Bambu A series. Highly recommend you look at those. Unfortunately, all of the ones I just named are not enclosed. Now that's fine, because if you're a beginner, you're going to be printing in PLA. So you want an unenclosed printer so that you can pool efficiently. Just know that if you like if you like 3D printing and you're really into it, and you're gonna want to use more advanced materials, especially if you're prototyping, especially if you're learning Fusion and CAD and all that stuff, you might have to upgrade to something down the line that is enclosed properly. Really don't recommend those tents that you can put on top of your printers. Those are basically fire hazards, and me personally, I would rather not use them unless you absolutely need to. All right, moving up to the mid tier, that is from anywhere between 400 to 650 to 700, right around there. That's where you're gonna find your mid tier of printers. You'll be looking at the P1P from Bambu Lab and a lot of the Anycubics. This is where the Anycubic Cobra Max, I believe, is, which is like a huge printer. It's like a 400 by 400 by 400 cube 3D printer. So if you're into like large format 3D printing, or not, okay, not large format, but if you're into like large 3D printers, then this is a pretty good place to start. Yeah, so this is your mid tier. Now, this does not mean that these machines are all more reliable than the first tier. This just means that they have slightly more capability. They come at a more of a premium because they have nicer features most of the time, and they tend to be on a little bit on the larger side. So that's why these are the mid-tier options, at least for me. Keep in mind, these are all my opinions, all right? So if you don't agree, you know, provide your opinions on the comments below. All right, and now we're getting to things that are on the what I call hobbyist or pro level type of printers. These are above $800 easily. So you got the P1S from Bambu Lab and the X1C. Now, when you're at this price point, pretty much everything becomes available, and all of the DIY build-it-yourself printers become available. Stay away from those like the plague. Stay away from the Vorons. And if you're a beginner, stay away from the Vorons, stay away from the VZ-Bots, stay away from the Rat Rigs, stay away from the K1 Maxes, which I've heard are super complicated to build. Stay away from all of that. Why? You just want to see if you're into 3D printing. You want a reliable 3D printer, all right? You don't want to sit here building one for 2-3 months on end and still not have it print properly or be reliable after the fact. You don't want to make that learning curve even more steep than it already is. You need to learn how to get reliable, consistent prints off of your own machine before you can consider something like this. These printers make you realize one thing: you either love building them and you can't have enough, or you hate the fact that you have to constantly be on top of them and maintaining them and, you know, looking at them and tinkering with them. And because I'm a masochist, I mean, because I'm an engineer, I enjoy it. If you're a beginner and this is what this video is tailored for, then you're really looking at any of the other options I've mentioned before. Now, just because I've mentioned it does not mean it's the right fit for you. It is on you to do the research and to see what printer appeals to you the most, because at the end of the day, you're gonna be the one running it. At the end of the day, it's gonna be your printer. So make sure you do your homework, you look at what's out there, and above all, you get something that you are happy with. It's all subjective. Thank you very much. Comment below if this video helped you out at all, and I'll see you next time.